This video is supported by Brilliant. Hey, Mark S. House with you here, and welcome back, my friends. With commercial space's aspirations expanding so rapidly, there has never been more to cover, and this week is certainly no exception. Work at SpaceX's Starbase still screams along, including ship testing as they close that gap between Starship's orbital flight tests. Plenty of Falcon 9 action, of course, sending multiple missions into orbit in just this 1 week alone. The Delta IV Heavy takes its second last flight ever in this spectacular fiery display. Rocket Lab hastily launches its first ever suborbital mission, but shh, that's a secret. And then we've got loads more of all this terrific stuff, so let's jump right into it.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
So remember last week when I said we were truly in the rebuild phase of the Starbase launch site? Well, this week there was a bunch more evidence of just that. Take a look at this. That was the first of multiple flexible cryogenic hoses being reinstalled at the back of the booster quick disconnect system. These hoses, of course, need to be flexible to allow the booster quick disconnect plate to move in and out from its hood, all while being shielded from the mayhem of those 33 Raptor 2 engines roaring above as the Starship lifts off. This sort of quick disconnect system is actually being adopted by more and more launch companies. Why? Well, because it provides a more seamless and automated process than more traditional flex hoses that connect directly to a rocket. Just as a good example, this is the upper stage of the Falcon 9. Those hoses there need to be either replaced or refurbished after each launch. Rather than the older systems like this, Starship and the launch infrastructure that goes along with it is being designed as a vehicle that could launch multiple times per day. Whether that will eventually become true or not, we'll just have to see, but innovations like these are always a great improvement to the process. So let's just follow the main piping at the launch mount right down one of the legs here. More assembly is happening very rapidly. Yes, that is the first of the multiple cryogenic pipes for the orbital launch mount being reinstalled finally. These were removed a while ago, of course, after Booster 7 performed the rapid unscheduled digging at liftoff. That had caused this structure, nicknamed the doghouse, to be bent upward, with the underlying pipework being damaged right along with it. With his most recent flyover, RGV aerial photography was able to capture some very awesome details of the ever-growing rebar maze. Right here, we can see that there's already multiple cryogenic pipes laid towards the launch mount leg, showing that the doghouse indeed will return. That also means that this manifold that we previously thought would go at that location shown in this render by Ryan Hansen can't go there anymore, at least not without some incredibly creative pipework angles. Instead, with this recess, it's fairly safe to assume that one of the manifolds will go there. The manifold right next to that will most likely go right here in front, and that leaves just one more to be placed at the opening between these legs close to the tower. It is nice to get some more certainty on just how that puzzle is solved. All of the manifolds have also received the protective covers shielding the nozzles. Some of the plates embedded in the concrete to help secure these manifolds have been lifted on the rebar cap this week ahead of the concrete pouring. At this point though, we aren't fully certain how they connect up the piping between the two different sets of deluge tanks to these manifolds, but I'm sure we'll find that out very soon, so stay tuned. Speaking of those, this week multiple segments were being lifted around the area. It's a really great sign, I think, that they are progressing rapidly with this system. One really neat detail is that it's very clear to see which pipe segments are ready to be installed in their permanent location. Once at this point, they've been cut down to the required size and they've been painted white. Over at the suborbital side of Starbase, Ship 25 is still standing proud at Pad B, ready to continue its testing campaign. It did almost look like testing wasn't going to happen this week, but on Wednesday, there it was just before 2 PM. Frost appeared on the vehicle, and we had a successful spin prime test, or as SpaceX likes to call it, a chill and spin test to check out those vital systems. In the case of a spin prime, the engine's turbo pumps are sped up using high pressure gas, and this tests out everything other than actually igniting it. As stated by SpaceX, this was all done in advance of the upcoming static fire, and at the time of publishing, that looks likely to be this coming week. So let's hop in the SpaceX shuttle and head to the build site where this week we saw the end of the ground fabrication building. Unlike the low bay, this building wasn't just unceremoniously flattened in 2 simple events. No, over time the crew very carefully removed each piece and even delicately lifted off its door. Why were they being so careful though? Well, many are speculating that this groundwork here at the Sanchez site is all related. With some of the structure of the building now spotted at that location, I would say that it's looking very likely that the ground fabrication building will now be rebuilt there. Nearby, the assembly of the second megabay had rocketed along during the week. All the 4 corner segments of the second layer were placed, and the beams connecting them also installed. Next up, the cladding needed to be applied, and then onto installing the corner segments for the third layer. Now, the progress may slow here just a little, as SpaceX was seen creating 2 trenches straight across the main entrance gate of the ring yard. This is most likely to do with the previously mentioned and overdue expansion of the electrical network. With the main lines now in place from Brownsville, they need to convert the higher voltage down to a more suitable voltage that's used on site, and then they need to distribute all of that. To support any future upgrades, they are using these red E ducts, some of which have been stored at the launch site at the suborbital side of the tank farm for months now. I think it's great to see what those are being used for at last. That blockade at the main entrance didn't last long, as SpaceX showed it back open, transporting in the next corner segment of the ring yard. In no time, we were witnessing the first segment of the third layer being lifted. So what about the construction updates on future vehicles? Well, inside the first megabay, the assembly of Booster 12 continued on at a breakneck speed. Its methane downcomer installed. Thrust section, yep, here it was heading in, followed shortly after by it being lifted inside. Before we knew it, there was the liquid oxygen tank section fully stacked. Now, it was time to install the remaining COPVs, the autogenous pressurization lines, and a bunch of other parts that they can do ahead of the huge methane tank being stacked above. The benefit of doing all that now is that this tank is currently structurally fine to work inside without the bridge crane continuously supporting it at the top. Once the methane tank with the 4 grid fins is stacked, the bridge crane is then required just to increase that safety margin. So how has that methane tank been going? The forward dome section was stacked, and in no time it was already 9 rings tall. There was just 1 stack remaining to complete it, and there we go, the main body of the methane tank was being fully constructed. Now, next door in the high bay, the news perhaps isn't as great for Ship 28. This week, we saw its payload bay door being removed. Thankfully, they still have the external braces installed on its PEZ dispenser door, so the ship is at least structurally stable. Why exactly they decided to remove it, and also how they have removed it with the PEZ dispenser inside, is just a bit of a mystery. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thankfully, the future of Ship 28 was not all doom and gloom, with the second aft flap being moved inside the high bay for installation. We've also been keeping our eye on some nose cone action. Now, this is a little speculative, but some of the upgrades that SpaceX has been doing to the nose cones of Ship 30 and onward is intriguing. Notice these new ports here. This is finally looking like we may have some reaction control hardware. These potential cold gas thrusters appearing now as a great insight because they've just been added recently. We can see that because this shot from the same nose cone after it came out just a few weeks back clearly doesn't have these included. So that may conclude Starship updates around the various sites, but more great insights were shared by this recent article by NASA. They have put forward 7 US companies that will collaborate with them to advance space capabilities. Specifically, there is really great Starship related information in here, which I'll get to in a second. Interestingly, this time around, NASA made it clear that they wouldn't be providing any of the companies with capital or funding. Instead, they will be working with them, assisting with research and development, and potentially sharing technology and experience. Now, these companies and projects are all intriguing, so let's have a quick run through them. It isn't all that surprising that SpaceX was on the list. After all, NASA is already heavily invested there, but a line from the article that has kicked off a range of speculation in the community states that the architecture includes Starship not only as a transportation system, but as an in-space low Earth orbit destination element. Now, this almost sounds like Starship could be destined to become a space station in its own right, all supported by their Starship and Dragon fleet, also utilising Starlink technology for connectivity with the world below. Now that would be pretty darn exciting. We have, of course, recently just seen the astounding news about Vast Space partnering up with SpaceX, but they've actually been included right here on the list too. The Haven 1 concept for the commercial space station, potentially the first ever fully private space station in orbit, is a terrific thought alone, but with them now officially collaborating with NASA, this adds a lot more certainty to the overall plan in my view. I'm also thrilled to see Sierra Space and the Dream Chaser spacecraft getting a good mention. After all, this little space plane and its future variants can open a range of added crew launch options, especially when we consider the unfortunate issues that have plagued Starliner. Equally exciting is that Sierra Space is also working on their Life module, the Large Integrated Flexible Environment. This is a 3-story inflatable habitat module that can support a crew in space, and it was also presented to form part of the announcement of the Orbital Reef project announced way back in October of 2021 by Blue Origin. Speaking of Blue Origin, they will also be collaborating with NASA in developing a human-class orbital transportation system intended to ride on top of the upcoming New Glenn launch vehicle. The activity around the production of New Glenn has been picking up the pace recently as well. However, given how closed off they tend to be, we'll need to wait until some more information comes to light about any of that. So moving on, we then spotted this new persistent platform by Northrop Grumman, all based on their Cygnus vehicle, which occasionally sends cargo to the International Space Station. This modified idea has an added bus and a few extra solar panels. Apparently, these adaptations will make it a vehicle capable of commercial research and manufacturing in space. Also included in this idea is the technology to provide in-space servicing. Next up, we have Special Aerospace Services. They are building an Astronaut Automatic Maneuvering Unit, or AMU, to help astronauts do servicing and assembly in a safer way. Then lastly in this list, we have a relatively new startup, Think Orbital. NASA is going to work with them to develop the Think platform and construction technologies for space applications. The Think platform is a concept that involves this spherical habitat module all assembled in space using a robotic arm. I think it is safe to say that any astronaut that's experiencing life in this bad boy would be having an absolute ball. Like and subscribe. I think the future of this looks really neat. It could serve as part of a commercial space station or have other vehicles like SpaceX's Starship docked to it. That said, if you think about it, this is a kind of weird idea. I mean, Starship itself is huge. Rather than constructing something like the Sphere, there would be loads of volume in Starship alone without constructing anything else. The crewed version of the ship would include all the life support equipment required, and given that they can just launch as one unit, well, that's it. It's done. So soon after our video last week went live, we had Falcon 9 and the booster 1067 here hurling the Satria satellite to orbit from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral. This is a high-speed telecommunications satellite to provide internet to the thousands of islands in the Indonesian archipelago. It is a big challenge to get telecommunications set up here, of course, due to the huge number of separate islands. Again, this is a great case for satellite internet given the limited options in the rural areas. This has a super high throughput offering around 150 gigabits per second. Apparently, it is also the most powerful of its kind in the Southeast Asia region. Back to the launch, here we were to see main engine cutoff and stage separation. Shortly after, fairing deployment of course, but interestingly, these two were on their 7th and 9th flights. It's just crazy how many times that these can be used now. The landing footage for this one was a little choppier than usual, but there was the shot of the day in daylight on the drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas, landing number 12 for this booster. SpaceX did need the full Merlin vacuum bell for this mission, which needed a second burn to shoot itself into the required geostationary transfer orbit. At 36 minutes into the mission, the satellite was deployed, leaving it to complete the rest of its journey. It is now going to take about 5 months to reach its operational orbit, and it should begin operations by early 2024. On Thursday, we got to see some rare Delta IV Heavy action, and watch closely because this is the second last time that you're ever going to see it. Only one more flight to go, currently set in Q1 of next year. After being scrubbed due to an issue with a ground system valve the previous day, ULA was back with this gigantic triple-core rocket standing strong at Space Launch Complex 37B. Inside the payload fairings up top, the secret payload in this classified NROL-68 mission. Yes, not much that we can say about that, so this was a short launch coverage. No matter though, because the brilliant Delta IV Heavy never leaves anyone disappointed, lifting off in style. Just check out that iconic fire here with a terrific liftoff. This was the 15th ever flight overall for the Delta IV Heavy, at the same time as it being the second last ever. This rocket has been operational since 2004, and 11 out of those 15 launches were all for the National Reconnaissance Office. Terrific shots, I will say, from the ground by Greg Scott here too. You've just got to love that epic triple exhaust shot. A few minutes later, the always spectacular side boosters cut off, with them disappearing out into the darkness. A little over a minute and 35 seconds later, there went the central booster, and my favourite, the incredible RL-10 engine nozzle extension popping out there before it ignites. Given the secretive nature of the payload, this is where the stream ended and the mission success was shown later. This week, there were two Starlink missions that only launched a day apart, both taking the older 1.5 satellites to orbit. On the left here, we have the early Thursday morning launch, Booster 1075 on its fourth flight from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, 47 Starlink satellites on board there. On the right, and a little over a day later on Friday, Booster 1069 on its eighth flight from right across the country at Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral in Florida. 56 satellites on board with that one. Now, I will just say a very welcome and neat surprise here from SpaceX was that for the first time we got to see these views from multiple cameras on board, all using a Twitter event. I'm really hoping that we're going to see that functionality extended even further, because this is incredibly beneficial, not just for the situational awareness, but also, I must say, it makes the viewing experience even more enjoyable. The rockets blasted through the sky, first stage separation with both the second stages completing the longer portion of the flight and taking all those Starlink satellites to orbit. Both boosters completing the landing burn, all shown in that twin view. Booster 1075 there landing on the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You, and 1069 on Just Read the Instructions. A wonderful set of flights, and given the launch cadence of Starlink missions, maybe we need to do these twin views a little more frequently. Now last week, just as I was preparing to put the previous video live, Rocket Lab was successfully launching a secretive mission for the Defense Department. This mission was not streamed, and very little information is actually known about it. Even more intriguing is that this was the first ever suborbital variant of the vehicle, called the Hypersonic Accelerator Suborbital Test Electron, or HASTE for short. Now, this mission took off from Launch Complex 2 at Wallops Island in Virginia, and there wasn't even any detail shared on the payload, peak altitude, or the speed at all. In fact, the launch was only revealed through airspace notifications and a tweet from the NASA Wallops account. What we do know is that the platform is designed to accommodate payloads up to 700 kilograms. Rocket Lab's CEO Peter Beck stated that he expects strong demand from the Defense Department for hypersonics testing and targets, also mentioning that Rocket Lab can get exact trajectories at a cost, frequency, and also an accuracy that has never been available before. Sure, this launch of HASTE marks a significant milestone for Rocket Lab, but one thing that I'm sure that very few of us want to see is the wonderful Electron ending up primarily as a military platform rather than the current platform dedicated to the advancement of research and scientific missions. After all, Rocket Lab's innovation and technology are always state-of-the-art, and I for sure want to see them continuing to share and inspire the industry with scenes like this. With Rocket Lab and all these incredible companies working on such a colossal range of technical solutions, as a young person wishing to get into the sector, there is limitless inspiration. What can help you with your passions for progress is learning just a little bit each day on a wide variety of topics. Well, introducing Brilliant.org, supporting this video and many others. Have you ever tried a little programming? Found the subjects daunting or perhaps boring? Well, not with Brilliant. No matter what level you're at, they help you master this while having a lot of fun with all the interactive interactive components. Let's learn how to think in code. Programs are just directions. Break each step down, and before you know it, you could be creating incredibly complex systems that serve a real purpose. Why would you need programs to loop? Sure, this is a basic example, but progress further and mix it up with some conditional statements. I'm telling you, before you know it, you will already understand the core concepts needed to make amazing things. That is how all this great software drives the technology that we love so much. If you want to excel in your career and keep your mind sharp, it's really important to keep learning consistently. Brilliant makes it a breeze to develop a daily learning habit, and even if you're just checking in for 15 minutes or so each day, you will notice a real difference in your knowledge base. Think of it as high velocity learning, guiding you step by step through all the magic that is math, science, and computer science. Brilliant lets you learn by getting hands-on with so many great topics and challenging courses. Play around with cool charts and graphs and explore tons of awesome visualizations. And just remember, programming isn't just fun from a software level, but also a hardware level. I'm really loving all these new lessons. It's all here, my friends. Just go to brilliant.org/MarcusHouse from the link right there in the description. You can try it all free for 30 days, and the first 200 of you will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. Thank you, Brilliant. So next up, I wanted to show you some of the great work being done by Gravitics. This space station startup recently successfully completed micrometeoroid orbit debris shield testing. Now, this shield here, as explained in this neat video, is made up of two metal plates that sandwich this pillow in between. Just look at this clip of an 8mm bullet smashing the shield at a speed of over 20,000 kilometers or around 13,000 miles per hour. Without this pillow, look how it gets absolutely destroyed. What happens if the same bullet hits the shield with this pillow in place? Wow, the difference is absolutely staggering. We can clearly see all that energy dispersing into that pillow layer. This is a proprietary design by Gravitics, and they've done an amazing job creating it. It is worth mentioning though that although the tests were performed here with an 8mm bullet, the average impactors in orbit are far, far smaller. Do also take a second to read up on their space station plans if you haven't explored this, by the way. This is yet another inspiring company doing big things to help kick off this upcoming industry of space station awesomeness. Their StarMax concept aims to be a key building block in this new era in spaceflight, and this shielding concept should do a really good job at protecting that space station. Finally, today, in a thrilling close encounter with Mercury, the Bepi-Colombo spacecraft captured breathtaking images of the planet's mysterious surface. I just love this mission, all done in collaboration between ESA and JAXA, and the latest event has been pretty darn spectacular. The flyby, which occurred on June the 19th, revealed an array of geological wonders, leaving scientists in awe of it. The images, snapped by monitoring Camera 3, showcased Mercury's rocky terrain with stunning clarity, unveiling the newly named Manly crater, not named after our favourite Scottish space YouTuber, but after the late Jamaican artist Edna Manley. The images also captured this extraordinary tectonic feature caused by the planet's cooling and contracting. This region alone presents an opportunity to study Mercury's tectonic history and the volcanic activity that gave rise to this formation. Bepi-Colombo's successful flyby sets the stage for the next exciting event ahead, where scientists will dive deeper into Mercury's core, surface processes, and magnetic field. So yes, best of luck to the little Bepi-Colombo spacecraft, which will continue its journey braving the immense gravitational pull of the Sun until it enters Mercury's orbit in December 2025. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit subscribe so we get to keep making them. If you would like to help more directly, like all these many people here, all this support makes a colossal difference to us. It really does. The countdown is also on to pick up this merch design on a wide range of products. This will be coming offline in July, so only a few weeks left. If you want to continue with more space goodness, the algorithm thinks that you will enjoy this video here next, or maybe these videos here. Thank you for watching all this way through, and I'll see you all in the next video.